Y'all please rise and we'll say the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you call the roll, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir. Voigt,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Ludington,
Yes.
Farnham,
Here.
Lawton,
Here.
Brunner, and Patrick.
Yes.
We do have a quorum. This meeting is for the purpose of modifying registration of a liquor license for Andrew Z. Patrick, doing business as Westbrook Farms, Inc. The reason I mention this is because that's the sole purpose of this special meeting. Is there any public comment on that issue? Hearing none, do you want to explain? Oh, Andy,
Yeah,
you
want
have
Andy to leave.
Vamoose.
I mentioned in the email that I sent out, I don't know if you've all had a chance to read it or not, but I'm going to try to make this simple. Andy's first license was a winery license, and he had that in the name of his corporation. But at that time, this is years ago, the state would not allow an individual to have two liquor licenses. So he had one in his corporation name and one in his individual name. Well, he did not renew his winery license this past year for 2024. So now he wants to rename his restaurant liquor license into the name of his corporation because that winery license that was in the corporation is no longer exists. So he's just moving it over. It's the same. It's more of an administrative function, but Andy just wanted it to be above board and transparent, and this is really just a simple procedure. In fact, when he submitted his application for his liquor license, it always has been, shouldn't say it that way, he checked corporation anyway, even though it had his individual name on it, doing business as. So he just wants to clean that up and get that more appropriate. I butcher that enough?
No. Any questions? A motion to make that administrative change? Russ moves. Blood seconds. Any further questions? Would you call the roll?
Certainly. Ellis,
Yes.
Ludington,
Yes.
Farnham,
Yes.
Lawton.
Yes.
It does carry.
Yep.
And there being no other purpose for this meeting, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Russ moves.
All second.
Blood seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That's done. We've got about,
You're on.
we're ready, so we'll go ahead and start the meeting. We'll start it off with public comment.
Okay. I brought in, and I want to apologize to the hospital first. I don't have another copy, I'll give one to, but I'm gonna try to explain the best way I can. I'm not, the article in the paper kind of sound like I'm against the hospital getting the contract. I'm not against them getting the contract, because I think they do a great job. I'll tell you that right now. Samantha, I think you guys do a great job, okay? But what I'm trying to put out there is to say that this dollar amount, what I'm trying to say is, if the paperwork was all done that could be done, okay, and they had all the fair market values on the tax form and the assessed value, okay, and what it boils down to is if you do the numbers I've got written down there, okay, some of them are right off of here, and some of them they don't have. They don't have the numbers to put on there. Okay, so yes, I understand that the state is the one that makes that decision, sorry, guys, that they're exempt, okay? But I would think that the county itself, or the board, or whether it's the annex, would want to know exactly how much exemption there is there. But the county, the dollar amount is what I'm trying to get across on the full amount. Now, the last part of it that I am trying to get across is, if you took the assessed value on all the properties, and if the hospital had to pay the tax like all the rest of us, the .20, that amount would equal $326,000 plus
For what part?
for just the ambulance part. That's the new point, the new tax levy that's getting ready to be put in. And it's put in. It was already voted in and it's done. You're gonna collect anywhere from $350,000 to $375,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay, if they're already exempt, if they had to pay the tax like all the rest of us taxpayers had to pay, that .20 on their assessed value would be $326,085. That's all I'm trying to get across. So in essence, if you're gonna hand them another, whatever they bid, or whoever comes in here and bids, okay, the other one may not be tax exempt, non-for-profit, okay, but in essence, they're getting $326,000 here because you're writing it off.
I understand what you're saying.
And now they're going to get more. I think they do a great job, but that's not the point. I'm a taxpayer and everybody else in here should be too. Some get the senior freeze, all that. So your taxes are froze. It doesn't have anything else to do with small businesses, okay, or any other citizen in town in those 7 southern townships. That's all I'm trying to get across. You're taking $375,000 out of the pocket of the community that would be spent at all your other businesses. Do you understand what I'm trying to say there? That's all I'm trying to get across.
I will check it
Okay.
out. Okay, that's all I can say.
Yes.
We'll discuss it with Dina.
And
We'll check the levy, because no matter what, just to explain, we're gonna collect 375,000 max if
Yes,
we don't
yes, sir.
lower it. The thing is, we do a levy on a percentage, and so we wouldn't collect 300, and if they were for profit, we wouldn't, and these valuations, you know, that you put forth, they would not pay 326,000. Because
their tax,
that's all we're asking for is 300 and some thousand. That's spread equally through all the county. So we can't collect more than 300 and some thousand. And everybody else has their value applied. So that wouldn't work. That doesn't work. I'm just telling you. Dina, do you know what I'm saying? In other words, if we pass a levy and we're asking 17 cents per hundred, I mean, if he's saying the value is
on all their properties.
on all the properties is 1 million,
No, that's the
oh, I'm
tax.
sorry, 16 million.
That would be,
So
assessed
16
value.
million times 17 cents, right? That's the equalized.
That's what you're gonna add to every tax bill of anyone in the district.
Right.
Right, and then that 17 cents then is distributed between all your taxing bodies, not just the county, the school, the city, the fire,
Right.
anybody.
the new tax one that I'm talking about is for the contract on the,
That's what I'm thinking. Is that
Yes, sir.
17 cents?
yes,
Okay, 17 cents per hundred
okay?
on the total equalized assessed value of the county is what we get it on.
On the 7 southern townships.
Well,
Correct or am I
yes,
wrong?
on those townships.
Right, because you have
right.
your other ambulance
Has
company.
already got back. I'm talking about the 7 southern townships that's getting put back in, the tax levy.
Well, if you added what he's saying to what we're already levying, we'd be collecting double the levy. So that's not possible.
Right,
You're
well, it
writing off
wouldn't
half
just
of it.
be you either, that's gonna be spread out.
It's gonna be spread out.
What I'm trying to get across to you is what I mentioned the other day in the office, is if the hospital had to pay the .20 like all the rest of us have to, how much more would that generate?
We would
320?
lower- We would lower the levy because we wouldn't need that much.
Then if that's the case, let them pay the .20. They're not paying it, Jeff. Is that right or wrong?
They are not paying it on exempt property.
That's right.
Correct. But the original referendum was not designed like that. All taxpayers and non-taxpayers would pay that amount of money in to operate the ambulance service. That's the way it reads.
The only thing I'm trying to get across is they're exempt for the .20, and that's what I'm trying to say,
We know that.
okay? I think some of the rest of them understand where I'm coming from with it, I think,
I think
but you don't. Okay.
I understand, it's just, that's not part of the equation that the state lets us use and was passed in an ordinance, or in a referendum.
I just hope that you can look at that paperwork, read it, and then you can make the decision when the time comes, that's all. Y'all can sleep with yourself, that's all I'm gonna say.
When the time comes, the decision's already been made.
I'd like to make a follow-up comment if possible.
Yeah.
So, Randy sat in several of those meetings with the same statement over and over again. I'm gonna reiterate, for a non-for-profit organization to operate, for the non-for-profit status, we have to have so much charitable care. He's saying if we paid property tax, we'd owe $326,000 in the amount of the levy. However, over the course of a year, we write off tens of millions of dollars in a patient bill. We come out, and when we're talking about tens of millions opposed to 326,000, it's still way ahead. So, while I can appreciate what Randy's saying, I myself am a tax-paying citizen. This is gonna affect me too. I've got more than half my staff live in the seven southern townships. They're gonna pay that tax as well. Happy to, not a big deal. But, I understand myself, I'm getting frustrated with hearing the same thing over and over, but yes, we are a tax exempt organization because we take care of our patients. We take care of the patients that cannot afford to pay their bill. We have financial assistance. We do all these things to offset that cost. If that makes,
Yeah, that you're required, for our office, they're required every year, after their audit's complete, they have to report to us what their charitable giving, whatever you wanna call it, charitable
charitable care. yeah.
care is, and then it just has to prove that it is more than or outweighs the tax burden, and by far, there's no way a tax bill would ever be millions of dollars like that. So that's all they have to prove, is that charitable care is more than the tax burden.
Now,
And
let's say any of the ambulance services that have been here before, did they or did they not have to write off Medicare, Medicaid, and any other insurance? It's the same thing, is what he's basically saying.
I don't know what.
Well, they have to. It's set,
Okay.
prices are set.
It's not the same. You're talking contractual versus write-offs? There's contractual for insurance versus write-offs are two completely separate things.
On this sheet here, on taxes, according to this, they pay 1.7.
No, that's what they are exempt from. What I'm trying to say is you total up all their values, all, fair market value on all their properties. And you take 1/3 is the assessed value, correct?
Right.
We're right?
Correct.
So if you come up with the assessed value that I did, okay, and you multiply it by your factor, which is going to change if I'm not mistaken. Right now it's 1.0337 or something like
Oh,
that.
that was the state multiplier. Yes,
That,
that
okay,
goes
I don't know
away.
what it's going to be this year. I don't know if everybody does know yet. But what I'm trying to get across is, if that that new levy they just put back in is the .20, if you take that and multiply times the assessed value, what would it come to? If that's what they would have to pay if they would normally pay, is what I'm trying to get across. Is it. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not against them getting this contract, and I've said it 3 times now, that you guys do a great job. That Horizon transported my mother yesterday, and I just told Adam that you guys did a great job. Did I or did I not?
You did.
Okay, all right, on 16 million, if that's the equalized assessed value.
That's an
And
assessed
you-
value.
It's hard to get
Equalized
that.
assessed. Wait a minute. If you apply 17 cents per hundred on that, have you got a calculator?
I do not. I don't even have a phone.
I come up with something different than you do. Okay? But that's
Still-
17 cents per hundred.
Is not
I
going to generate
did-
a tax bill that's in the millions that would outweigh their charitable care.
That's correct. all right?
What I figured was what it used to be. It could be up to .20. That's what that number is.
Okay, but we're collecting, you said now, okay? You said now.
I didn't say you collected it, you waived it.
Well-
Basically, they're tax exempt. So you're not really bringing it in the office because nobody has the figures what would normally come into that office.
All right, well, let us look at that. We
Okay.
need to move
Yeah.
on, okay?
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate the board for listening.
That's it. You have
You ready? Yes, sir. All right, so y'all have my month end report for February. We ended the month with 199 total 911 calls. So from last year, 178, we're still averaging about that 6.5 a day. Times overall look really well. I've already talked to the crews. The time I want to focus on right now is our back in service time at 29, almost 30 minutes. It's a little excessive, but if you look at our destination page, there were several transports to Union, Carl, Regional. So those do extend the average a little bit, but the crew is going to work on, my goal for that is sub 25 minutes. So I believe that's definitely an attainable goal. Working our way down, you saw Scott's article in the paper. We've had more than average DOAs, deceased upon arrivals. It's kind of an anomaly that we can't explain, but we're seeing more of those recently. In our treated refused care, you'll see just some asterisks there. My system did without going to the weeds, did an update, and it's not reporting that data like it used to. I'm working with the company to generate a new report. So hopefully next month I'll be able to go in and refill those numbers, but we're still on average for our refused cares. And then working down through the rest of it, we had a pretty busy month of classes taught, 11 classes and 73 students, so we're definitely cooking there. Our chest compression fraction, you'll see that there is an NA. We actually didn't have any cardiac arrest for the month of February, so there's no data to report there. And the second page, as usual, is all our destinations. Feel like that's pretty self-explanatory, so if you guys have any questions, comments for me, I will take them now.
Anything?
Samantha, has anything to add?
The helipad, so basically that's saying you had 4 helicopters coming in to transport people?
Correct. So for the PCH helipad, those are going to be patients that are 911 calls that we deem are serious, they require higher level care. A lot of those several of those were stroke patients. So the closest hospital around that has comprehensive stroke care is going to be Carl. So a lot of those patients are flown to Carl. Paris, Terre Haute can do some baseline stroke care. We can start thrombolytics and get our CT scans on board. But if they need a thrombolectomy or something invasive, that's where they go to those tertiary care centers. So the quickest route is to fly those patients out.
Okay.
Anything else? How about you, Jeremy?
Excuse me. Sent my report to all you there last week, but we had 72 calls for February. Our times are continuing to improve. I think a minute 22 is what February was. So we do have some more staff that we just hired and they're training, 3 more basics. So other than that, things are going smooth and well. Do you have any questions for me?
Oops. Okay, thank you. Next order of business is opening the bid for the ambulance service. So we have an opener here.
Unknown caller.
Okay, I have the, obviously, we still have to finalize a contract. We're just simply, we're not approving the bid today or Wednesday. We're simply acknowledging receipt and who is the low bidder, and then we'll go ahead and reach a contract agreement for the next roughly 4.5 years. So, first year from June 1 of '24 through May 31st, '25 is $325,000. Year 2 is 330, year 3 is 335, year 4 is 340, and the final year is $143,750 for a total of $1,473,750. You will each get a copy of the same thing I'm reading from, so that is the bid. And that's dated 3/8/24. Ollie Smith signed, and so did Martin D. Adams.
What was the first year?
325. So that would be $50,000 less than what we appropriated, levied. So we would be able to drop the levy by $50,000 the first year.
When's the deadline on that we can lower it?
When we find out from the state what the equalized assessed valuation is, and then
And we're gonna discuss that here in a few minutes. Okay? Any questions?
Jeff, I know it's obvious, but for the record, that there was only one bid received.
Oh, yes.
And that was from Horizon Health.
Right, I'm sorry, Horizon
all right.
Health. You're correct, I did not,
All right. And I do have copies for everybody
right.
to take with you. I didn't think we ought to have everybody
Would
open
you
up
pass that down
envelopes.
to? Okay, we'll take action on Monday, or Wednesday by accepting it, and then we'll start negotiating the contract, which we update the contract we currently have to reflect the changes we've made in the bidding process. Right, Carl? Okay. All right, next we'll move into Dina's report. Good luck, Dina. You
Yeah.
wanna come up here?
No. No, and I brought Kathy with me, so when I leave, I've got protection. But Kathy has been on the ground floor with this, so that's why I brought her with me in case I forget or stumble on something. You recall Alexis and I came to a county board meeting several months ago and talked about these monstrous increases we were making. We enlisted the help with Matthew Long, who's this SA up in Vermilion County. He's a numbers guy, he's taken 3 more state exams on top of what I have, so he's very knowledgeable. And worked with him on what we might have to factor here to get us in line. Those 2 townships I talked about that had the monster increases are at 1, but that's after monster increases. The rest of the county is still well below the 33 1/3. So we worked with him for a couple of days, and we're looking at least 10 of our townships having a local factor of 16%. There are a few that are gonna be, I think there's 4 at 11%, and Paris will be at 8%. And it's what we have to do to even get close to being at 33 1/3. Once we did this factor, I looked at numbers, Kathy's E-car this last week, I had 7 good sales, 5 of those were still in the 20-some% even after the factor amount. Even this factor is still not getting us. People are just paying as long as people got the money to pay and banks are willing to loan it. I don't know what else to do. This factor I don't like. It's a broad multiplier for everyone, and some maybe justly don't need it, maybe some justly need more. But it's what we need to do to get a starting base where we can move forward. We're just falling farther and farther behind. So we're not exempt, it applies to us too. The other thing to keep in mind is we have a bigger pool now to generate the money needed. I would like to think the tax rates would tank. You've got a bigger number to multiply times the tax rate to get and easy to really oversimplify. If a district needs $10,000 and the assessments were at $2,000, we'd multiply that times 5. Now that your assessments are $5,000, you only have to multiply them by 2 to get that money needed. The people that I'm afraid of meeting in a dark alley would be these tax districts, because they might leave a lot of money on the table. But this is something we had no idea about, we were totally unprepared for. If we don't do it, the state will do it, it'll slap a Band-Aid on it for 1 year, and we're right back to where we're at.
In fact, we discussed that last year, remember?
Yes,
We were hoping that adjustments would accommodate most of that. And
Right.
it just,
and this is not uncommon, I've reached out to other counties, Matthew does this every year. I talked just Friday, and then she responded this morning, the lady in Ford County. She factored all of her townships anywhere between 7 and 13% last year. She's factoring another between 7 and 13% again this year, just trying to get up to what people are paying for property. I don't know what else to say other than we don't like it. It's supposed to be in the paper this Saturday. I'm hoping Robbie will be kind on the front page to maybe give us a little explanation as to what they're gonna open the pages and find. To clarify that, one thing other counties told me is that there is a little heading every year before the assessments appear that say everything's multiplied, and for years it said 1. This year, the townships will be listed with those individual multiplier factors, local factors. The other counties told me, oh, you don't have to bother to send it people out a notice. You've done that by having that factor published in the paper. And sorry, but I mean,
We
the
agree
one
with
thing we
Senator.
hear over and over is, I don't get the paper. 2, people don't understand that. So we have chosen to take on that extra cost of paper, ink, and personnel time. We have published a notice for every single person. It's not fair for them to suddenly get a tax bill next year with that factor on it, and there's no recourse. They can do nothing. I'd rather get them the notice and let them know right now, allow them to have that chance to appeal. We're too small of a community to not make these taxpayers aware of what we're having to do. So, again, all of those won't be published in the paper, only the ones that are required to be published in the paper, but every person will receive a notice in the mail. So, yeah, that's a lot of extra paper and envelopes and ink we had to order, but I just feel it was the right thing to do. Have I forgotten anything, or?
it does not include farm ground.
No, farm ground's its own thing.
No ag ground is included in any.
No.
Only-
And this is not farm buildings either. This is only non-farm. It would be residential building and land, commercial building and land, industrial. Nothing farm, no grain bins, no pole build, nothing like that. It's gonna be houses, businesses, garages.
Wooded areas, things like that.
I'm sorry?
Wooded areas.
That's part of the farmland category.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and that conservation, that wooded transition thing, we're on it,
Got your hands full there, haven't you?
Yes, I mean, that's another several thousand parcels that one girl's trying to muddle through. It's a,
Good luck.
yes, it's a hard process, and you're not wrong.
I guess I don't understand, how are we so far or off, but the state can, I guess I don't understand how there's a difference.
I talked to Matthew, and he says if you don't do it, you're gonna get a 16% across the board from the state. Some townships are more in line. Ross and Prairie are the 2 we did not have to factor, but those are the properties she was raising $30,000 and $40,000. So those are at a 1. So if the state issues a state multiplier, it's across the board.
Well, how do they come up with that figure?
Same way we did with Matthew. You
Well, then
look at
why
the
are
last
they-
3 years.
How theirs different than what you come up with? I guess I don't understand. I totally don't understand.
Okay, what we just
difference.
mailed in had these factors on it. When I just mailed to the state, they will review that. If they think we've done too much, they can still add a state multiplier to make it even higher. They can add a state multiplier to bring it down if they think we went too high.
They go by sales.
It's
Well, what do you go by?
sales. Yeah, it's a
Well, how
3.
come there's a difference?
There's 2 levels. I have a chance to factor, and then it goes to them, and then they have a chance to factor. We have always just chose not to. I've always felt that we're out there. Other counties, again, are just shocked to find out that we have assessors that literally view every property. That just doesn't happen. They factor. Oh, everything in this township, I think, went up by sales 5%. Let's just throw a factor. To me, that's not right, because some houses are in line.
The state's doing that.
Yes,
Not,
we're both doing it. We're both doing it. I look over everything. I've always chosen not to factor. It's messy, it's ugly, and it's too broad. Every property in a township shouldn't necessarily be increased. They're where they're at. That's why I don't like to factor, because that's everybody.
How many sales does it take to raise that factor?
The sales for the state is 20 or 25? 25? Within a township. Paris is the only one that ever has enough sales to even look at.
I was gonna say.
So when they look at Hunter Township, there might be 2 sales.
Right.
So they're gonna say, oh, well, these sales are high, you need to factor that township by 10%. That's not really fair.
No.
To raise everyone 10%
So,
is 2 people.
what the state's doing is not fair. They're,
What we're doing now, I don't like. It's broad. It's everybody in that township.
Just because 2 or 3 people decided they wanted the piece of property that was right next to them, that raises everybody else.
Well, and we try to throw those out, but yes.
but there's nothing you can do about it, because the state overrules you, basically.
Well,
Right.
and one of the townships would have 2 sales.
Oh, yeah, that's very
And
common.
then if they're crazy, that's what the state uses. We've tried to
And
take a more even approach to it.
right, and again, we struggle with attorneys, and we've talked about the MyDeck thing, about how we're trying to get attorneys to understand when somebody lives next door and they really want that piece of property and they pay a lot of money, mark your sale that it's not a good sale. Mark it that it's an adjacent owner. Mark it that it's a related party. There's so many reasons maybe it's not an open market. We've argued with the state a lot about things that are listed on Facebook. Is that an open market?
What can we do about it?
Fight the state of Illinois. Those,
Legislatures, they're the ones that,
There's a shortage in housing. And when there's a shortage, they're buying these places for more than what they're worth.
I mean, this all
I mean, it's
obviously
driving it up.
started
I
with
mean,
COVID.
And then that forces everybody else's up. And you got that with, because of the job openings you got in this community. There's we got people sitting at home doing nothing. Could be working, filling these jobs. But here again, you have no housing to put them out there. And they're paying more for properties that $50,000 or $60,000 house, they're paying $120 now.
okay.
And that's forcing some of this.
It's called,
Kathy, did you have anything to say?
yeah, is there anything?
Well, basically it is due to the last 3 years, how it is averaging, and with the limited sales in some of these smaller townships that have caused it. I mean, we looked at it and looked at it.
Yeah, to say we've lost sleep would be putting it mildly, because we'd come in the next morning, it's like, I didn't sleep at all, did you? And it's like, no, I kept thinking about this township or that number, or, because it affects us, it affects everyone I know, and it's a hard thing to do. Heck, I'm not leaving my house for a month afterwards, I don't think. But the state will give us, they call it our median level of assessments, and it should be at 33.33. 3 years ago, it was at 30.27 or something. 2 years ago, it was at 27 point something. This year, we're predicting like 24. Just because we're not valuing property at what it sells for. So they take those 3 years and average those. Well, now, when we drop that 30% off, I'm gonna have a 27, a 24, you know, it's just gonna continue to get worse. So, the only thing I know to do is factor locally, allow people that are fairly assessed now to appeal and make those tweaks and move forward. I just know we wanted to come speak with you before it hits the paper Saturday. Notices we're gonna put in the mail on Friday so that they'll get their notice, they'll read the story, they'll see the publication in the paper all at once. And we just wanted you to know, and hear what we had to say, because I know people call you and say, do those people know what they're doing? And we wanted you to know, yeah, we do, unfortunately. That's why we're doing this.
Other comments from the board?
I've instructed our girls, when people say, what's this gonna do to my tax bill, to just say, we're not sure it should do anything, because again, the tax rate, I would think, might go down and it really wouldn't affect their bill. I don't know where things are at, if taxing bodies can still change their levy, if budgets are already prepared and locked in. I
You
don't-
you want me to say something?
No,
I mean, technically, they're supposed to be locked in, set. Can they make changes? Well, we're right in the middle of an election, so we've not touched levies. So we'll get to them in a few weeks, but
that's why I'm saying, if they're, just like my math problem earlier, if they ask for $10,000 and it's still $10,000, now we have a bigger multiplier, that rate should go down.
The problem is in the next few years,
Right.
because then if they, like the county can do 27 cents per hundred, and this may drop the levy down to 20 cents per hundred
Right,
this year. So the following year, then
Right.
that could be increased.
even if your 27 cents stayed the same, you generate a lot more money because there's a lot more stuff to multiply at times.
Right. Well, everybody has to be prepared for questions, so. And I'm sure Dina and Kathy in her office are available if you have any specific questions. I'm sure you'll probably be there at the Wednesday meeting, or are you gonna hide out?
Yeah,
Anything else? Thank you, Phil, for being upfront. So, okay. Andy, do you have anything?
Hands on the clock.
Yep.
Clock's working. They're putting the lighting on. Who said that? Oh, I know who told me that. Should be, oh, I know, it was Josh. That might call me. He said they ought to be finished, today, putting lighting on it. That's it.
Russ?
Nope.
How's the trees doing?
Almost done. I think he's still got the north side to work on.
It'll sure look better when they're all leafed out.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
So it's noticeably different right now.
Yeah.
All my angles looks really good.
Yeah.
You might walk through things.
And shrubs are out. It really,
Shows the
You know,
building.
cleaned up the
It'll look
building.
really good when it's done.
And between the scaffolding and everything being off and the shrubs out, because I'm not usually down here at 9. The other night, it's, oh my gosh, it's like almost a different building.
It kinda is.
Yeah.
The big crane's coming out one more time, and we can't tell you exactly when, because they're still fabricating, in the middle of
The metal.
fabricating that metal. You notice the windows are in, and there's, inside is mainly done.
Yeah,
In fact, I know it's done.
they've done a lot of work in there. It looks a lot better up there.
Augie, do you have anything at this point?
I do not.
Elections going?
Yeah, well, it's slow. So far, we've had, when I checked Friday evening, it was like 280 total votes so far, which is really low. So, and then I guess that would be expected for the primary.
Carl?
Nothing.
Sheriff?
Nothing.
Blood?
Nope.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Attended Neighborhood Watch meeting. Thank you very much for Matt being at that meeting. The Hume Group it was good to have Matt there. There was a lot of good conversation. I don't know that I still really have a role there. I'll attend another meeting or two. But that's a very involved group, and it was good to hear. Went to ROSC meeting. Samantha, I know you were on by Zoom. There were about 40 people in attendance, and most of them in person. The purpose of the meeting, which was led by Jonathan Burns, was to discuss the need for a recovery home here. And the thing I learned about was the Oxford House structure, which is not it's not looking for a big building, it could be a house. And it is very democratically run by those who are in it, and they can vote people on or off, or not accept them. Just to tell you who all was there, it's a good group. Probation, Jerica Robinson, who is the state of Illinois.
Services, court services?
Court services.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
HRC, a lot of ministers. Doug Cochran, Cindy Spencer was there, so she was the only educator that was there, but it was good to have her. Several folks who are recovered, or in recovery, and some other sober living staff. So the next meeting, and there'll be a lot of meetings that this will be the focus, but I certainly learned a lot. We are talking about how to replace Monica Dunn in a health department, because she has resigned to take a job with the state. So because it has to do with the state, it's messy. So our executive board of the health board, which is Dr. Rico and Scotty and I, are in that process. Something that doesn't have to do with any of that, and it just was something that I had read and hadn't brought up, but since you were both here, did you guys hear anything about, I think it was the city of Decatur, or a Decatur ambulance service, who is discussing a $500 lift assist fee because they have so many nursing homes that don't, that use their services?
I have not heard that. It wouldn't surprise me though. Decatur Ambulance actually dissolved and is now, they contracted out to, I believe, AMR, which is the largest for-profit for-profit ambulance service in the nation. So for them to want more money would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, $500 lift assist fee.
Which is insane.
It is. I just didn't know whether you guys had heard anything about that.
It was on Channel 17 News.
Is that where I saw it?
That's where I
Okay.
saw it.
Yeah. All right, that is actually all I have.
On the, are you taking applications for the,
It has been posted, and yes, we are still in that process.
okay, someone asked me the other day, and I said, I assume it's on the county website, but I looked and I didn't see it. I said, we'll probably call the health department and they can.
I know she had posted it because it was on some national ones.
We got one from New Jersey and one from Philadelphia, but they really weren't qualified anyway, so. But
Right.
it is out there.
So there is that, okay. I'll talk to the people that asked me about it to see if they found out where it is, because I told them to call the health department. I
I
assume
would
they.
say it's on their website.
Yeah,
I'm
it's on
assuming, yeah. That's how we got the dentist.
Okay, all right.
Thursday at 10:30, we have a meeting. It is confirmed for a union, the talk on the union at 10:30, right here. At 11 o'clock that morning out at Mary Jane's is a,
Betty Jane's.
Betty Jane's, I'm sorry. What did I say? Mary?
Don't print that.
At any rate, at Betty Jane's is the core pre-construction or pre-bid meeting, which you're all welcome to go to.
When?
Thursday morning at 11 o'clock. Okay? I don't have a whole lot. It's been a very disruptive morning, so it's just, everything's gonna be fine. We'll figure it out, but just seems like, not so good a news, issues to deal with, and we'll do the best we can, all of us. So, anything, are there any questions of me? Right now, we're looking at April 2nd for the bid opening for majority of the bids for the jail. Okay? It was in the paper, if you get a chance, look in the back, one of the back pages, and it's all there. Any need for a closed session? We will be in closed session at the regular meeting because we have to just deal with previous closed meetings that day. So I guess that's it. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, please move.
I have a 10:15 meeting
Go
I
ahead
gotta
and
go to.
take off. And Russ seconds.
2 minutes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Hey, ladies, I have a question.